He told me he loved me. I believed him. So when he said he needed $90,000 to avoid losing everything, I gave it to him. And the moment he got what he wanted, he ghosted me. But guess what? I didn't just get mad. I got even. And I made sure he felt every cent of that betrayal. Stick with me while I share my story. And if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Rachel Myers. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I've always been careful with money. I work hard as a dental hygienist, and I save. I've never been the type to take big risks, especially with my heart. But all of that changed when I met Caleb Hart. He walked into my life like something out of a movie. Tall, handsome, confident. We met at a friend's barbecue, and by the end of the night, I was already hooked. Caleb was 38, divorced, and ran his own small construction company. He said he was rebuilding his life after a rough marriage and a few hard years. He listened when I talked. He brought me flowers. He made me laugh. I thought I had found someone solid, someone real. In just a few months, Caleb moved into my place. At first, it felt right. We were happy, but then he started opening up about his money problems. He said his ex-wife had destroyed his credit, that he was behind on business loans, and that if he didn't come up with $90,000 soon, he could lose everything. He looked ashamed when he told me, said he hated asking me, but he had no one else to turn to. I remember sitting across from him, heart pounding. I wanted to help. I loved him, and love means sacrifice, right? I started small, paying off one of his overdue credit cards. Then I helped with a loan payment. Before I knew it, I was all in. I drained my savings. I borrowed from my parents, telling them it was for a surprise investment. I wired the final chunk, $20,000, on a rainy Wednesday morning. Caleb kissed my forehead and said, "You saved me." I believed him. But just 1 week later, everything changed. At first, I thought he was just stressed. Caleb started acting cold a few days after I sent that last payment. He snapped over little things. How I folded the laundry, how I cooked dinner, even how I laughed at a TV show. It didn't feel like him, but I kept telling myself, he's just under pressure. He'll come around. But deep down, I felt something shift. He stopped calling me during lunch. He spent more time on his phone, turning the screen away whenever I walked by. He slept on the far edge of the bed, the warmth in his eyes gone. Then one Friday, I came home after work, and the apartment felt empty, too quiet. At first, I thought maybe Caleb had gone out, but then I noticed his shoes were missing, his jackets, his laptop. I walked into the bedroom and my heart dropped. His closet was bare. Every drawer he'd used was empty. Gone. No note. No text. Nothing. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No reply. I checked social media. His profiles were deleted or blocked. Panic turned into confusion. Then confusion into horror. He didn't just leave. He erased himself. I sat on the couch with my hands shaking. The same couch where he once said he wanted to grow old with me. I couldn't breathe. It felt like the walls were closing in. When I told my parents, they were stunned. My dad was quiet, but my mum couldn't stop saying, "We warned you." My younger sister, Erin, she was furious. "He played you," she said through gritted teeth. "He took your money and ran. You gave him everything, Rachel." But I couldn't even cry. I was too numb. I felt like a fool. I kept replaying everything in my head. Every smile, every kiss, every "I love you," trying to figure out when the lie began. Did he ever love me? Or was I just a plan? Erin begged me to go to the police, to file something, to do something, but I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I had lost $90,000 and the man I thought I'd spend my life with. And worst of all, I had no idea why he did it, or if I'd ever get answers. The first few weeks after Caleb vanished felt like a blur. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I sat on the couch most nights, staring at the door, half hoping he would walk back in and tell me it was all a big misunderstanding. I told myself maybe he had a breakdown. Maybe he was scared of how much I had done for him and didn't know how to face it. Maybe he'd come back once he sorted things out. But every time I checked my phone and saw no missed calls, every time another day passed without a word, the hope started to slip. I'd scroll through our old photos, reread our messages, looking for signs. I kept asking myself, did I miss something? Was I really that blind? I tried to believe the man I loved couldn't do this to me. Then one night, Erin showed up with a folder in her hand and a look I'd never seen on her face before. She sat down next to me and said, "You need to see this." Inside were screenshots, old news articles, and a Facebook post from a woman named Melissa Dunn. 5 years ago, in Savannah, Georgia, she had posted a warning about a man named Caleb Hart. Same age, same photo. He had dated her, moved in, claimed his ex-wife ruined his business, and said he needed help. She gave him money, not as much as I had, but enough. And then, just like with me, he vanished. I stared at the papers for a long time. The words swam in front of my eyes. Everything clicked. The sweet stories he told me, the exact way he described his bad luck, the timing, the charm, the sudden coldness after he got what he wanted. It was all planned. This wasn't a man running from problems. This was a con artist. I felt something rise in me, something hotter than sadness, stronger than shame. It was rage, pure, focused rage. He hadn't just broken my heart. He'd used it. He saw me as a target. He didn't love me. He never loved me. I was a bank account with a beating heart. I stood up, looked Erin in the eye, and said quietly, "I'm not letting him get away with this." That night, I didn't cry. I didn't beg the universe for answers. I made a list. I wrote down every payment, every message, every promise he made. I wasn't going to the police to report a broken heart. I was going to come after him with everything I had, not just to get my money back, but to make sure he never did this to another woman again. Rachel knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed help, someone smart, discreet, and not afraid to dig deep. That's when she remembered Devin Marks, an old friend from college who now worked in private security and investigations. They hadn't spoken in years, but when Rachel called and explained everything, Devin didn't hesitate. He listened carefully, then said, "Send me everything you have. I'll find him." Within a week, Devin got back to her. Caleb wasn't in South Carolina anymore. He had moved to Tennessee, living in a small but modern home under the name Cal Hartley. Devin sent her pictures. There he was, wearing the same smirk she knew too well. But what really made Rachel's stomach twist was the woman beside him. She looked like she was in her early 50s, dressed in designer clothes, with expensive jewelry on her fingers. A wealthy divorcee, Devin said, probably his next victim. Rachel felt sick. Caleb had reinvented himself again and was already working his next con. But this time, she wasn't just going to watch. She started building her case like a puzzle. Every receipt she saved, every bank transfer, every message where he said, "I'll pay you back," every email that showed how desperate he claimed to be. She dug through their texts and flagged every line where he promised love and commitment, while also asking for money. She even found old screenshots from social media where they posted pictures together, celebrating the day his final debt was paid off. She took everything to a lawyer. The woman reviewed it carefully and told Rachel the truth. There was no clear criminal case. Caleb hadn't signed anything admitting it was a loan, and unless she could prove he planned to defraud her from the beginning, it would be hard to press charges. Rachel left that office disappointed but not defeated. If they needed proof of intent, she would get it. She just had to be smart. She had to make him confess or catch him trying the same trick again. And to do that, she had to get close to him, without him ever knowing who she really was. She looked at Devin and said, "Let's set a trap. I want him to fall right into it." Devin set the wheels in motion first. He reached out to Caleb, now going by Cal Hartley, posing as a low-key investor interested in funding a renovation business in Tennessee. Devin's fake profile looked real enough. LinkedIn, website, and a few online articles praising his discreet investing approach. It didn't take long before Caleb responded. They exchanged a few emails, then scheduled a coffee meeting. Meanwhile, Rachel prepared for her role. She dyed her chestnut hair a glossy black and added extensions. She wore light blue contact lenses and got professional makeup to sharpen her cheekbones and reshape her look entirely. Her wardrobe shifted from casual scrubs and cardigans to sleek, expensive-looking outfits that screamed wealth without trying too hard. But the biggest change wasn't her appearance. It was her confidence. She no longer walked like the heartbroken woman Caleb had used. She walked like someone who had power and a plan. Rachel created Jessica Lane, a wealthy young widow who had inherited a small fortune from her late husband and was now looking to invest in real estate, specifically house-flipping projects. Devin helped build Jessica's backstory online, complete with social media accounts, property records, and photoshopped images of her former life. The first meeting was arranged. Devin introduced Jessica to Caleb during a staged lunch meeting at a trendy bistro in Nashville. Rachel held her breath as she walked toward the table, heart pounding. Caleb stood, smiled that same charming smile, and didn't flinch. He didn't recognize her at all. She extended her hand with a soft laugh and said, "Hi, Cal. I've heard great things." Caleb shook her hand warmly, eyes drifting just a second too long. "Likewise, Jessica. Devon's been hyping you up." Rachel smiled coyly and replied, "Let's see if you live up to it." Over lunch, she played the role to perfection, curious, bubbly, slightly clueless, and very rich. She asked all the right questions but didn't push too hard. She laughed at his jokes, listened to his stories, and dropped hints about having money she didn't know what to do with. Caleb, ever the opportunist, leaned in. He talked about his vision for flipping high-end homes, how he just needed the right partner, and how trust was the foundation of good business. Rachel nodded, sipped her wine, and said sweetly, "Well, I like trusting people." Caleb smiled, not realizing he'd just taken the bait. Over the next few weeks, Rachel, still playing Jessica, kept the act going perfectly. She met Caleb for lunch, visited a couple of his renovation sites, and even handed over a few small trial investments, a couple thousand here, $5,000 there. Enough to earn his trust, but not enough to raise her own risk. Caleb was eager, praising her every step of the way, telling her she had a good eye for business. It made Rachel's stomach turn, but she smiled through it. The more time they spent together, the more Caleb opened up. One evening, over drinks at a rooftop bar, he leaned in close and started telling stories from his past. "You wouldn't believe some of the women I've had to deal with," he said, chuckling. "One chick gave me 90 grand. Can you believe that? Poor thing probably still cries herself to sleep. I had to get out of that mess." Rachel's hands trembled under the table, but she kept her smile steady. She had hidden a small recorder in her clutch and made sure every word was captured. It wasn't just the money anymore. It was the way he talked about her, as if she were a fool, a toy, a means to an end. Caleb kept pushing for more. He started texting her late at night, suggesting they go away for a weekend. He talked about getting serious, buying property together, maybe even starting fresh as a couple. It was the same playbook, word for word, that he'd used on her before. Rachel knew then that she wasn't just his only victim. She was a pattern. Each time he spoke, each lie he told, Rachel added it to her growing file. Voice recordings, text messages, emails, even photos of them together. She documented everything. Devon helped her organize it all, turning her pain into proof. And still, she played along. She giggled when he flirted. She nodded when he pitched ideas. She gave just enough to keep him hooked, just enough to make him think he was in control. But behind her soft smiles and elegant clothes, Rachel wasn't falling for him. She was building the perfect setup. Caleb had no idea. He wasn't running the con anymore. He was walking straight into one. Caleb thought he had struck gold. Rachel, still in full disguise as Jessica Lane, sat across from him in a sleek Nashville office she had borrowed from one of Devon's contacts. She wore a tailored suit, spoke with quiet elegance, and held a thick folder labeled "Investment Proposal." Inside was a carefully constructed fake deal, a property flip project that required Caleb's construction skills and promised him a $200,000 investment. "Just one thing," she said sweetly. "My lawyer will need to review everything. Debts, business history, references, standard due diligence." Caleb barely blinked. "Of course, sweetheart. Anything for a partner like you." Rachel slid over the paperwork. It included a non-disclosure agreement, a background check form, and a clause that required him to list all previous business partners and financial history. What Caleb didn't realize was that every word he wrote down, every signature he added, was helping her case. Devon had already prepared legal channels to use this information. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about documentation, evidence, and getting justice the right way. Caleb signed it all, relaxed and smiling, even joking about how his last investors weren't nearly this smart. Days later, they met again to finalize the deal. Devon was there, dressed sharply, posing as the lead investor. Rachel entered the room late. No longer Jessica, but Rachel. No wig, no makeup tricks. Just the woman Caleb had betrayed, standing tall in front of him. At first, Caleb blinked in confusion. Then his smile faded. "Rachel, surprised?" she asked, calm but sharp. "You should be. You never saw me coming, did you?" Devon stepped forward and laid down the documents on the table. "We have everything. Your signed confessions, the emails, your bank transfers, the recorded conversations. This wasn't a meeting. It's a reckoning." Caleb's face drained of color. "Wait, this isn't..." You tricked me! Rachel stepped closer, her voice steady. You didn't just lose $90,000, Caleb. You lost the game. You thought I was broken, but I was just getting started. Caleb tried to protest, but it was too late. Her real lawyer walked in, placing an official letter of intent to pursue civil fraud charges right on the table. For the first time since he vanished from her life, Caleb was speechless. Rachel turned, her heart pounding but her spirit light. For the first time in months, she felt powerful. She didn't just get her closure. She took back everything he tried to steal, starting with her dignity. Word spread fast once Rachel's lawsuit hit the court docket. Caleb's shiny new life began to crack like cheap paint. The court process wasn't easy, but Rachel had everything she needed: his signed documents, recorded conversations, and proof that he had targeted her for financial gain. The judge saw right through Caleb's charm. In fact, when Rachel's lawyer read out the transcript where Caleb laughed about the crazy chick who gave him 90 grand, the entire courtroom fell silent. Even Caleb's own attorney looked uncomfortable. Rachel sued for fraud, emotional damages, and financial loss, and she won. She didn't get the full $90,000 back, but what she got felt so much bigger. The court awarded her $135,000, including interest and penalties. Caleb tried to appeal, but it was useless. He had signed his own downfall, one smug lie at a time. His new girlfriend, the wealthy divorcee he'd been trying to scam next, dropped him the moment the news hit. She changed her number, blocked him, and even posted a long message online warning other women about Cal Hartley, the con artist. His business tanked. Clients walked away. Old debts resurfaced. The state began garnishing his accounts. Liens were placed on every property he touched. Caleb tried to reach out once, through a fake email. Rachel didn't respond. She didn't need to. His silence had once crushed her. Now, her silence buried him. For the first time since he ghosted her, Rachel could breathe. She walked through her neighborhood without shame. Her family, especially Erin, stood beside her the entire time, proud of how she turned her pain into power. No, she didn't get every dollar back, but she got the truth. She got justice. And she got the final word. Caleb didn't just lose the case. He lost everything he used to control people: his charm, his mask, his reputation. And Rachel, she got something far more valuable than money. She got herself back. Rachel stood on the balcony of her new apartment, coffee in hand, feeling the summer breeze on her face. It wasn't a mansion or a dream house, but it was hers, bought with her own money, her own courage, and her own healing. The chaos of the past year still lingered in her mind, but it no longer had power over her. One evening, as she and Erin were unpacking the last few boxes, Rachel looked over and said, "You know, I didn't take revenge. I took justice." Erin smiled and nodded. "You didn't just survive him, you outsmarted him." Those words echoed in Rachel's heart. She had once felt broken, used, and discarded, but now she felt strong, not perfect, not fully healed, but strong in ways Caleb would never understand. It didn't happen overnight. After the court win, she took a few weeks off work. She traveled a little, took long walks, started journaling, and went back to therapy. The sessions weren't easy. Some days, all she could do was cry. Other days, she laughed at how blind she had been, but she never shamed herself again. Caleb didn't trick her because she was stupid. He tricked her because she was kind, and that was not a weakness. Inspired by everything she'd been through, Rachel started a small side business, a digital course and online community teaching women how to spot red flags, recognize manipulative behavior, and protect themselves emotionally and financially in relationships. It wasn't just about Caleb anymore. It was about helping others avoid men like him. Women started writing to her, thanking her for her honesty and strength. For the first time in months, Rachel felt her pain had a purpose. She also learned to trust herself again. She went on casual dates, but didn't rush. She asked questions. She set boundaries. And more importantly, she listened to herself, to her gut, to the lessons life had painfully carved into her. Her bond with Erin grew even stronger. The two would sometimes joke about Caleb, not out of bitterness, but because it no longer hurt. He was just a chapter now, not the whole story. Rachel still carried scars, but she didn't hide them. She wore them like armor, reminders of what she'd endured and how she had risen. And when she looked in the mirror now, she didn't see the woman Caleb left behind. She saw a survivor, a warrior, and finally, someone who loved herself enough to to never fall for another Caleb again. To anyone out there being used, manipulated or lied to, listen to me. Don't just cry. Don't just rage. I know it hurts. I know how it feels to sit in the dark, wondering how someone could treat you like nothing after you gave them everything. I've been there, on the floor surrounded by silence and unanswered questions, but I didn't stay there, and neither should you. Outthink them. Outwork them. Don't waste your energy begging someone to treat you right. Use that energy to become so sharp, so strong, that they'll regret ever thinking you were weak. That man thought he could walk away with my money and my trust. He thought I'd stay broken, invisible. Instead, I learned everything I could. I studied him. I watched. I built a case. I played the long game. And when I made my move, he never saw it coming. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted the truth out there. I wanted him to feel what it was like to lose something that mattered. And I got it. Not just in court, but in life. I made sure the world saw him for who he really was. But more than anything, I got me back. The real me. The one who knows her worth. The one who won't be fooled again. So if you're out there thinking no one sees what you're going through, know this. I see you. I was you. And if I can climb out of it, so can you. Be smart. Be quiet when you need to. Plan. Heal. Come back louder. Stronger. Wiser. Make them remember the day they underestimated you. Not with words, but with actions so loud they'll echo longer than their lies ever could. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to become them. You just need to win. And when you do, when the tables turn, you'll know it was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming your power. So stand up, wipe your tears, and show the world what happens when a good heart gets pushed too far and comes back smarter than ever. Do you think Rachel was right to go undercover and expose Caleb? Or should she have just moved on and let karma handle it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss one.